It is now officially. Well, no, we already did March, right? We already did the first day of March celebration. Oh, well, yay! Yay!
Very late. Very late.
It's not a second.
Very late person of the month.
Yeah. Anyways, got this folder here, and it's heavy, it's damp, and honestly, it's a little bit dangerous if you look too closely at what's inside. We're about to head to a small lakeside town in Maine, and the year is 2001. You want to know what game this is? Drum roll, please. Silent Hill. Silent Hill 2, actually. Now, forget everything you know about Resident Evil. Forget the jump scares and the biological weapons and all that. This isn't about surviving a monster. This game is about surviving yourself. Yeah. So the story starts with a man named James Sunderland. Apologies, that's not how it's pronounced. He's standing in a filthy public bathroom, staring at himself in a mirror. He looks exhausted. He looks like a man who has forgotten how to sleep. But he's holding a letter, and it's from his wife, Mary. The problem is, though, Mary died 3 years ago. The letter says that she's waiting for him in their special place in Silent Hill. James knows it's impossible. He knows it's probably some cruel joke, but he goes anyway, because when you've lost everything, impossible is the only thing you believe in at the moment.
Yeah. That explains why the game looks so somber as it looks right now.
Yeah. But when he arrives, the town isn't just a resort, it's a graveyard of memories, choked by a fog so thick you can't even see your own hands. And here's where the developers did something that'll change gaming forever, real quick. They didn't just design monsters, they designed manifestations. Each creature James encounters is a physical representation of his own psyche. It represents his repressed desires and his crushing guilt. There's lying figures that they're trapped in straitjackets made of their own flesh. They represent James' internal agony and a feeling of being stuck. There's also the bubble-headed nurses. Yes, that is actually what they're called.
There's no way those nurses.
The bubblehead nurses.
That's actually what they're called.
Yeah.
No.
And there aren't just creepy medical staff, they represent the sexual frustration and the sterile, horrific atmosphere of the years Mary spent dying in the hospital bed. And then there's, of course, Pyramid Head. Dark romance women, if you know, you know. Anyways. I'm sorry.
God. Oh, no. Wait. Hold on, off script. Wait a minute.
That was off script.
No, not even. It's about to be off script. What the fuck? You tell me there's dark romance of fucking of
Pyramid Head. Yes. Pyramid Head is a very very looked up upon icon in the not darker romance community, but it also kind of goes in that like horror romance community, I should say. There's a lot of people that like make thirst traps about them.
Y'all some freaks, I tell you what. Y'all some freaks.
Totally not a part of that. Anyways,
I say y'all some freaks, man. Freaks.
So we have to talk about the Red Pyramid, the thing, right? He's not just a slasher villain, but he's a punisher. He exists because deep down, James believes that he deserves to be hurt. And every time you see Pyramid Head, he's executing other monsters. He is James's guilt that manifests into rusty metal and blood. Now, a quote from the direct game was, "I was weak. That's why I needed you. Needed someone to punish me for my sins." There's a famous piece of trivia about the development of this game as well. The PlayStation 2 was powerful for its time, but it couldn't but it couldn't handle rendering of the entire town in Silent Hill all at once. So the drawing distance was too short. Most developers would have just cut the town down or even just simplified the graphics, but instead, the developers use limitation as a weapon.
Legitimate fucking, I don't know how to describe it. They turn something that most people see as a detriment to almost a core like design part of the game.
Yeah, they blanketed the entire world in a thick, volumetric fog. Basically, just a bunch of fog.
So downtown London, perfect.
Downtown London.
Oh, you know what? Realistically, downtown Boston.
Honestly, yeah, like early in the morning.
Summer or spring.
Yeah, like really early in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah. It masked a hardware struggle, but it also created a sense of claustrophobia that defined the entire genre.
Even though it's eerily calming at the same time, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know, but they turned a technical failure into a masterpiece of atmosphere.
Legitimately, I still don't understand how that fancy think of it.
Then there's the in-water ending. To get it, you don't just make a choice at the end of the game. The game tracks your behavior throughout the entire playthrough. If you don't heal yourself often, if you constantly examine Mary's photo, if you act like a man who's given up on life, the game does actually notice. Yeah, and it decides James's fate based on how you choose to grieve throughout the game.
Specifically, how you choose to believe.
Yeah. So I've played a lot of horror games, right? But most of them end when you turn the console off. But Silent Hill actually like stays in the room with you, even after you play.
Even stays in the what?
So like, I guess
I turn schizo when I play this game.
pretty much, yeah. Like after you're done playing it, you're still on edge even after you turn the console off. Like even after you turn off your PC, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever you're playing it on, because now it's open for most platforms. But also, I realized I forgot to change the thing. We're talking about Silent Hill. Oopsies, oopsie daisies. There we go.
That's fun, but what's
I'm
the
already.
reason?
Uh, personally, it just kind of put me on edge. I don't know.
Okay, so it's a personal thing.
Yeah, it's like a personal thing. Like personally, it stayed in the room with me even after I was done playing it. Like I was scared that there was going to be like a nurse or someone if I turned around. I don't know.
Fucking bad.
Yeah.
Dude, sometimes for me, especially as a kid, when I saw like bits and pieces of it, especially after like young me, like my first horror game, like real horror game, was Batman Arkham Asylum, and after that, being like one of my first horror games, and then just immediately fucking going straight into like fucking Silent Hill and shit like that. Just winding up like being stuck, like just having nightmares of being stuck in a fog out of nowhere in my own room, like.
Wait, hold on. Arkham Asylum's considered a horror game?
Have you played that shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit is horrifying in some cases, especially fucking with like the little. I say it only because of that one scene with like the fucking scarecrow glitching the game. Like with that, I legitimately thought my game glitched, and then like a fucking young like fucking what was it like 8 or 9-year-old me was just like it's so scary, we fucked up my game. Type shit, you know what I mean? That's the only reason I call it a horror game in my eyes.
Yeah, I was about to say, my personal opinion, it's not really a horror game. I can kind of see, I guess, how some people might look at it as one, but
I say it's simply atmosphere wise. It ain't really not too bad.
fair enough. But it does make you wonder, if you walked into a fog today, what would be actually waiting for you? Would it be a monster with a rusted knife, or would it just be a mirror showing you things that you've tried so hard to forget? Silent Hill isn't a place on a map. It's a place that we build for ourselves where we can't forget what we've done. Now, before we go even deeper into things, I gotta clear the air real quick. So if you search for the real Silent Hill on Google or on like any like search engine, no. Like if you type in the real Silent Hill, You will find thousands of articles of central Pennsylvania. It's a town abandoned because of a coal mine fire burning beneath the streets for decades. Now, here's the thing, real quick. Centralia was not an inspiration for the original game, surprisingly. The connection was actually made by the 2006 film adaptation. The developers of Silent Hill 2 weren't looking at the burning mines, but they were looking at the internal decay of a human soul. So they wanted the setting to feel like a luminal space between like a vacation and a funeral. Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, we gotta clear that up because there's a lot of people out there that are trying to connect that, saying like, "Oh, Silent Hill's based off of that place," when it's not.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Because I mean, the similarities are like too uncanny. Like, you really think it came from there?
and even the look of the town, it wasn't really inspired by a map, but it was inspired by a gallery. So Francis Bacon, if you look at the monsters in Silent Hill 2, they look like they're screaming through their skin. Yeah, so these are inspired by um that was inspired by paintings and art by the man named Francis Bacon. So his paintings were disoriented, fleshy figures in cramped cage-like rooms, and they're a direct visual ancestor of the lying figure in the game. And the town itself was a diapadated wood with like muted browns and the sense of like lonely Americana. The team looked at Andrew Wyeth and his painting of Christina's World. It captures the exact feeling of being trapped in a wide open, like decaying space.
This case.
If there's one movie that Silent Hill 2 owes its life to, honestly, it's the 1990s film Jacob's Ladder. When you see the monsters' heads twitch at high speeds or the rusted, blood-stained like subway gratings, you see a direct homage to director Adrian Lane's vision of hell. The hospital level in the game is essentially a love letter to the most disturbing scenes of that film. Yeah. Now, geographically speaking, the team wanted a small town America feel that felt isolated, as we already kind of covered. They settled on a vibe that heavily influenced by the Pacific Northwest.
Sounds about right. It definitely looks about right when you look at the architecture when you actually play the game.
Yeah, so like I said, as we discussed about the fog, the fog as a technical fix, but it also gave the feeling that was inspired by the mountain mists in places like Oregon and Washington. And then there's also the Twin Peaks. You obviously you can't talk about Silent Hill without talking about David Lynch. The lakeside setting, which is a quirky yet dark characters, and the idea that the beautiful town hides a rotting secret, are all echoes from Twin Peaks. Mm-hmm. But here's a direct quote from the development team, the philosophy. The town is not just a place, it's a character that changes its face depending on who walks in the streets. That was a direct quote from Silent Hill philosophy. It's really fascinating how they took like a highbrow art and a cult cinema to create something that feels so uniquely, like Silent Hill. All right, before we hop into the next one, would you like to garden?
Uh, yes.
Okay. I must need a lighter, please. I left it over there. Indeed. Thank you. And you know the drill. If you got it, smoke it. You can join in as long as you are of age. We do not need any lawsuits saying a kid randomly came across it and just started smoking. Please make sure it is legal in your state as well.
Indeed.
Cheers. Alright. Now that we're moving away from the fog of Maine and we're heading across the Atlantic, we're heading to Perugia in 1839.
Ooh.
Yep. And by saying that, other horror fans already know what game we're going into. So now that the folder is thick and covered in dust and smells faintly like old parchment paper and copper, can we get air freshener, please? It's making the whole fucking room stink. Anyways, we're looking at Amnesia: The Dark Descent. If Silent Hill 2 was about horror of the mind, then Amnesia is about the horror of the helplessness. This is a game that arguably saved the horror genre when it leaned too far into action. It reminded us that one simple, terrifying truth: that you're not a hero, you're prey.
Sense of the word.
The game begins with a man named Daniel waking up from a cold stone floor of the Brenningberg Castle. There we go. He has no memories, but he does have a note written by himself telling him that he has initially swallowed an elixir to induce amnesia. The note is simple: find and kill Alexander of Brennenberg. But here's the catch. Something called the Shadow is hunting Daniel. It's a living, breathing mash of flesh, a fleshy red residue that consumes everything it touches. To escape it, Daniel has to descend into the deepest, darkest parts of the castle. But, in Brettenberg, the darkness isn't just an absence of light, it's a physical weight. This is where Amnesia changed the rules of engagement. Now, in most games, if you see the monster, you shoot it. But in Amnesia, you don't have a stick, you have a lantern, and you have your legs.
Fighting, there's no such thing as fighting.
So this game also uses a sanity system. It creates a brutal catch-22. So if you stay in the darkness for too long, Daniel starts to lose his mind. The screen starts to blur and he begins to hallucinate, and eventually he collapses, making him an easy target. So to stay sane, you need your lantern or to light candles, because the light makes you visible. And if you look at the monsters or the gatherers, Daniel's sanity plummets. He literally cannot bear to witness the horror in front of him. So the strategy isn't how do I kill it, it's how do I hide in a wardrobe and hope it doesn't hear me breathing.
Quite weird.
Now, one of the legendary moments in gaming history happens in the flooded archives of Brennensburg. So you enter a room filled with waist-deep water, and you can't see anything, but then you hear it. Something is sprinting towards you through the water. It's the Kernurk, an invisible water monster. Frictional Games, or the developers, were working with a very tiny budget at the time. They couldn't afford a complex, high-poly monster for every environment, so they made the most terrifying enemy in the game completely invisible.
Oh, that's...
All you see is ripples in the water, and it's a masterclass in less is more. If you can't see the monster, your imagination tends to fill in the blanks with something much worse than any 3D model. Now, as you descend deeper, you find the torture chambers. Now, this is where the real horror of Amnesia lies. You begin to realize that Alexander wasn't the only one doing terrible things. To power a mystical orb, you needed Vitae, which was an essence extracted from humans, those extreme prolonged fear and pain. And as Daniel's memories return, he realizes that he wasn't just a victim, that he was an accomplice. He helped build the machines of agony. It leaves you with a question that kind of sticks you in the ribs a little bit. Like, how much of your own humanity would you trade to save your life?
Yeah, question one. Everyone wants to really tell themselves.
Now, Daniel chooses to forget so he could live with himself. But the castle itself never forgets. And before we even hop on the next one, I'm going to finish the rest of this bowl. Because I did not finish the whole thing. So if you got it, smoke it. Cheers. Ooh. So, this one is a little small and crammed, practically suffocating. Honestly, I could barely open this one because of the edges being welded shut, shut tight. So now that we're leaving the castles and the fog behind, we're gonna go to a moon, actually. Yo, well, we'll get there. This game takes place on a moon called At-5, or AT-5. And the year, well, that doesn't matter. The time ended a long time ago. So we're looking at the Iron Lung. If Amnesia was a horror game about being haunted, Iron Lung is about a horror of confinement. It's a masterclass in minimalistic dread, developed by David Szymanski in 2022. It proves that you don't need a sprawling map or 1,000 NPCs to ruin someone's sleep. You just need a submarine, a camera, and an ocean that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
The setup is one of the bleakest in sci-fi history. Something called the Quiet Rapture happened. Every star and every inhabited planet in the universe simply just vanished. What's left of humanity is huddled on aging space stations, starving and desperate for resources. They find a moon, AT-5, which has an ocean. But it's not water at all. It's blood. You play as a convict. You've been put into a tiny one-room submarine called the Iron Lung. The hatch is welded shut from the outside and there's no windows. Your mission is to navigate through the deepest trenches of this blood ocean and take photographs of specific anomalies. Now, the promise was if you finish the mission, you get your freedom. But looking at the state of this submarine, freedom isn't exactly on the menu. This is where the game's genius, well, actually, it's cruelty, lies.
Yeah. Should we call it genius?
Genius and
thalassophobia cruelty.
Genius in a developmental sense. Cruelty if you're the one playing it.
Cruelty if you have even the slightest bit of thalassophobia.
Since there's no windows, you are effectively blind. To move, you have to use a map and set coordinates, and it's just a basic sonar pinger. You're navigating by math. To see what's outside, you have a tiny, grainy, low-resolution camera. Now, the camera takes a few seconds to process, but by the time you see the photo, whatever was out there might have already moved or even gotten closer. And because you can't see, your ears become your enemies. You hear the metal groaning. You hear something massive thump against the hull, and you hear a low, guttural growl that definitely didn't come from the engine. As the pressure increases, the submarine starts to fail. Pipes start bursting, fires start, and you're trapped in a box at the bottom of a sea of blood with no way out. Now, there's a subtle detail in the game's lore that makes the hair on my arms kind of stand up a little. So, the submarine is filled with old equipment and sensors, but there is a deliberate lack of escape technology. Yeah, so the Iron Lung wasn't designed to come back up. It literally was just a coffin with a camera attached to it.
And the village is supposed to die.
Yep. Zymansky designed the game to feel lo-fi on purpose. The grainy textures and the clunky interface make the player feel like they're being used. They're using discarded technology for a civilization that already died. You're not a pioneer, you're a scavenger in a universe that has already turned its back on you. And then there's the ocean of blood itself. You know, why blood? Why couldn't it be any other type of fluid? The game never really explains it, which is kind of the point. The universe itself has a biological, irrational, and hostile. You aren't just in a sea, you're in something living. Now, there's a moment towards the end when you realize you aren't just taking photos of rocks, you're taking photos of teeth. Massive, prehistoric, impossible teeth. Iron Lung works because it taps into thalassophobia, which, if people don't know, is the fear of deep water, and claustrophobia, which is the fear of enclosed spaces. And it taps into them simultaneously. It reminds us that sometimes the most terrifying things isn't what we see. In fact, it's the things we can't see. And yet something's definitely looking at us throughout the whole time. When the screen finally goes black, you don't feel like you lost the game. You feel like you were fully consumed by a universe that had no room for humans left. Now, there is a little hidden compartment in this folder, and this is the update 2.0, the terminal data. These are the logs of the consolation of iron, or the COI. They don't just want an average citizen or an average convict to see. So in the year 2349, or 357 on the epoch of interplanetary colonialization calendar, the universe just broke. Which, without warning, every star, every sun, and every habitable planet just vanished. Earth is gone. Mars, which was the most populated planet in the system at the time, was just instantly gone as well. In an instant, the only light left in the cosmos was the ghost light, a fading glow stars that had already disappeared, still traveling through the void. The only survivors were those on space stations or starships. Imagine looking through a portal at a thriving civilization 1 second, and then the next, staring into an infinite, silent basement. No explosion, no war, just an empty seat where the universe used to be. Yeah. What's left of humanity is split in two desperate groups, and yeah, in two desperate groups. Sorry, was the Consolation of Iron, which is a COI. That's who you work for. They are a brotherhood of 3 space stations and 2 ships. They claim about unity and a popular vote, but the terminal logs tell a different story. There are crumbling military Juana, running out of oxygen and hope. And then there's the Eden, the rivals. They were once based on the stations near Mars. The COI and Eden fought a brutal 9-day war over a space station called the Filament, just because it had resources. Eden is the only place left in existence that supposedly still has trees. In a universe where stars are gone, a single tree is worth more than 1 billion lives. Now, years after this rapture, the COI discovered something impossible on a few barren moons, like AT5. They found liquid, but it wasn't water. Most of it was human blood. Terminal logs confirm that scans say it is 100% human blood. Now, there's two main theories in the lore on why that is. So there's the garbage chute theory, which was the quiet rapture was a cosmic predator or an entity consuming the universe, and the blood oceans are the waste left behind from everything, or the liquefied remains of billions who vanished. But there's also the glitch theory, which was the universe underwent a physical error, and the matter of the humanity was teleported, quote unquote, or crashed into the trenches of these moons. But there's a detail in the log that gets even worse. They found architecture in the blood. Walls, pillars, buildings that look man-made but are ancient. This suggests that whatever happened to us has happened before. Or that we aren't the first humanity to be processed by the void. The term COI uses for your mission is conviction realization. It sounds noble, like you're realizing your potential. It's actually a sanitized term for execution by exploration.
By exploration. Yeah.
The COI knows the Iron Lung won't survive the pressure. They know about the monster in the blood. A massive mutated predator is down there. They sent the SM-8 submarine before you. It torn to shreds. They aren't there to find a way to save humanity. You're there because the COI is obsessed with finding anomalies and materials to keep their rusted space stations running for just one more week. The lore of Iron Lung suggests that the monster isn't the enemy, that the monster is the scavenger living in the graveyard. The real horror is the COI, which is a government that's willing to yield a human being into a scrap metal coffin and sink them into a sea of ancestors' blood, all for a few grainy photographs of a dead universe. Doesn't that sound familiar? Anyways, no, I'm joking.
Ever so slightly.
The terminal ends with a chilling thought that humanity didn't die in 357 EIC. We've been dying for a long time, and this rapture just turns the lights out so people can't see it happening. So that's the end of that one. Also, before we even move on to the next one real quick, yes, fully aware about Markiplier making a movie about it. I still want to see it. Still never gotten around to it. Yeah. I'm gonna see if I could find it somewhere. Try to watch it. Yeah. Moving on to the next and final game of the night. Now we're gonna come back to Earth and back to closer to today's time. We're gonna go to Hanuda in Japan. Now the year is 2007, but the village we're entering is frozen in 1976. Now we're looking at the game Siren: The Blood Curse. So if Silent Hill was about fog of the mind and Amnesia was about a dark of the castle, Siren is about the horror of being seen.
Horror means.
Yeah, of being seen, not of like what you can't see. This is like the horror of you being seen. Developed by Toyama, the same man who gave us the original Silent Hill game. This is a reimagining of his most brutal work. It happens when you take the Western lens of an American TV crew and point it at the Japanese folklore horror. You know, the Japanese folk horror nightmare. The story follows a cast of American media types, documentary filmmakers, and a professor who are traveling to a remote village in Hunada to investigate an urban legend. In 1976, the entire village supposedly vanished during a landslide. They arrived just in time to see a ritual they weren't supposed to witness. A woman is being dragged towards the altar, a sacrifice is being made, and then the siren sounds. Suddenly, the sky turns a color of a bruised plum. Rain starts falling, but instead of it being normal rain, it's bright red and vicious. This isn't just water, it's a catalyst. Anyone who drinks the red water or leans in or lets it into their eyes doesn't die. They become a shibito. Shibito? I believe that's pronounced. In most horror games, the gimmick is a flashlight or a gun. But in Siren, your only real weapon is a psychic curse called sightjacking. Because you're exposed to this red water, you can tune into the frequency of monsters. In Blood Curse, the screen splits into two, and one side is your perspective, hiding in a closet, shaking in fear, and on the right is a first-person view of the Shibito patrolling the hallway outside. Sorry. So it actually does do like a split screen gameplay of like one side is like you're hiding in the closet and you see your point of view, but you can also on the other side of the screen see the point of view of the monster you're hiding from. Yeah, it's awesome. You can hear them breathing and you can see your own hiding spot through their eyes. You have to wait until their heads are turned, watch their patrol path, and time your move to the millisecond. It's the most intimate form of horror. You aren't being hunted per se, but you're a guest in the mind of the killer. And most people kind of think of this as a zombie game, but honestly, this is what makes the Shibito scarier than your average zombie. They keep their habits. So I'm looking through the character notes real quick. When the Shibito isn't chasing you, they don't just moan or shuffle. They go back to their everyday to day lives. You'll find a Shibito housewife cooking with a rusty stove with no food. You'll find a Shibito father repairing a wall with a hammer over and over until his fingers are bone. They're stuck in a loop of domesticity. There we go. But with all the humanity scooped out. And then there's the Tsuyama massacre connection. The lore of Honduras was the 33 people killed in one night legend is a direct reference to a real life mass murder that happened in a rural thank you, rural Japan.
Oh jeez, I can tell that buddy's hitting you, man. It's French.
In 1938. There you go. Toyama took a real world tragedy and used it as a foundation to his supernatural nightmare. He wanted the village to feel like it was built on a history of genuine human blood. The most disturbing part of the Siren blood curse is the realization that the Shibito aren't just suffering. From their perspective, revealed in later game archives, They think they're in a paradise. The red water makes them see the world as beautiful, filled with lights and angels. To them, you're the monster. You're the cold, gray thing running around their perfect world. It kind of makes you wonder about the siren. Like, is it really a warning to stay away, or is it a town crying out because it's lonely and it wants you to see the world for what it actually is?
I'm gonna go with the latter on that one.
Yeah, but that's it.
Oh, I see.
That's it. We did it. So I guess that's it. Bye. Where?